Hey, Pretty Girl Club. Welcome to Exotical Cuffing season. I'm going to be talking about relationships and the relationship dynamics that we see between MLS women and MLS men. I want to talk about which ethnicities seem to go the best with us. I want to talk about what our preferences are, who we should be loyal to, who we shouldn't be loyal to. Should we be loyal to anyone? Let's get into it. So, the first thing that I want to say is any man, regardless of his race, if he pedestalizes whiteness or views white women as the pinnacle of femininity or the pinnacle of beauty or the pinnacle of relationship standards, I would automatically eliminate that guy, no matter what his race is, because that means that guy, he probably prefers a monoracial white woman, so that's fine. I personally would only date a guy who wants to be with me. I want to date a guy where I'm his preference and he is my preference. Like, for example, my boyfriend is a fellow Blaxican. He's a biracial. And that is my preference. My preference is an MLS man. But one thing that I've noticed is that some MLS men who are monocultural, meaning that they've only grown up in one cultural community, especially if they're monoculturally black, I've noticed that these men tend to have the same issues that you see with a lot of unambiguous black men. For whatever reason, I've noticed this pattern with men who are from quote unquote the hood or whatever, men who never got out of that culture. They seem to have the same exact issues, same exact narcissistic qualities, same exact inferiority complexes as unambiguous men. I actually believe that a lot of mixed race people or lighter skinned people who grow up in a gaslighting black community, I believe that a lot of those people actually have a form of body dysmorphia. And when I say body dysmorphia, what I mean is, you know how people try to gaslight you and they try to say that you're like way darker than you are. They try to say that you were like way uglier than you actually are. So people who kind of brainwash you into having an inferiority complex, what they're really doing is they're trying to convince you almost to have this form of body dysmorphia. They want you to look in the mirror and have the same inferiority complexes as them. And so I've noticed that a lot of mixed race people who are from monocultural African American backgrounds, particularly if they were raised in a lower socioeconomic background, so they're from the hood, they're from the ghetto or whatever, I've noticed a lot of those people actually have very severe body dysmorphia. A lot of the young women, they think that they're uglier than they are. A lot of the young men who are mixed race, they think that they are uglier than they are. A lot of these people think that they are exactly the same or that they look exactly the same as an unambiguous monoracial person because they believe in the racist one drop rule, when we all know that that's not the case. And so I feel like a lot of MLS people from monocultural African American backgrounds actually have almost like a dissociative identity disorder or like some sort of personality disorder where, their cultural background represents one identity, but when they look in the mirror, they see a different identity. And so when it comes to dating, if you're with an MLS man who is primarily from a monoracial black culture, I would say that if you're an MLS woman who doesn't usually date monocultural and monoracial black men, you will be in for a wild ride because that's kind of the experience that you're most likely to get. I've also noticed that when it comes to black men in particular, including MLS men, a lot of those guys follow red pill spaces or manosphere types of spaces. I personally don't date any guys who are a part of that space, and I don't recommend that you ladies date any guys who follow any sort of, I guess, incel misogynistic YouTube channels where they talk about like, oh, well, this woman hits the wall and this woman's value goes down when she hits a certain age. Well, I mean, if you're telling me that my value is going to go down after a certain age, then why should I dedicate my life to you then? Well, I shouldn't, because you just told me up front that you believe my value will go down after a certain point in time. And so I'm not even going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my life in a temporary relationship, especially if you just admitted that you will always be chasing another woman who's either younger or more readily available for sex, etc. Also, I've noticed that when it comes to red pill spaces, a lot of those men have the Madonna whore complex, meaning that they cast women into two categories. They either put you in the Madonna category, meaning they admire and respect you, meaning that you have to be either a wife or a mother or pursuing that, Or you get put into the whore category, meaning that he is attracted to you and therefore he disrespects you because he is afraid of how strong his attraction is to you. And so this is why we see a lot of men who they have an inferiority complex when it comes to an attractive woman. This is what you saw happen with Ebony K. Williams. They wanted to make sure to humble her and say, oh, well, you're a 6, or you're average at best, or she's not pretty, or you know how Kevin Samuels used to say things like, oh, sweetie is a 6, or all these women, they're all 6s, and these women are not that pretty. Men who make comments like that, they are just intimidated by how beautiful you are. They're intimidated by how captivating you are. And so, because that man can't handle that or whatever, because your beauty makes him feel inferior, he feels like he has to humble you and bring you down to his level. So this is why I don't even date guys that even follow any of those talking points on the internet, because let's be honest, guys who are spending all of their time watching dating and relationship coaching videos on the internet, they're probably not spending a lot of time out actually dating. When I was single, I was actually going out on dates. I was actually, socializing and stuff like that. I wasn't spending all of my time with my trigger fingers typing all of these random comments like rating guys online and stuff like that. No, I didn't have time to do that. I wanted to get out in the real world and actually interact with people in real life. And so I feel like a lot of men have social anxiety. I do think that it has gotten worse with like millennials and with Gen Z because of the rise of social media and the internet. The internet serves as kind of like a band-aid that you can put on yourself when it comes to social interaction. So if you don't really interact with people in real life, you can still slightly fulfill that social interaction need by being on the internet. But I personally am not going to date a guy who has absolutely no social skills. And I feel like any man who says that a woman is ugly or average at best, she's probably not going to want to date you now. She's probably not going to sleep with you if you try to take her down a notch or if you try to put her down. Just saying. Just a tip. But when it comes to dating, I think that we as MLS women, we as individuals have to ask ourselves what it is that we really want. And there's no wrong answer. There are some women who they really want a guy who's wealthy. Some women really want a guy who has no kids. Some women want a guy who shares the same hobbies as them and the same lifestyle as them. So I would say you may want to sit down and begin to really ask yourself, what do I want? Do I want a long-term relationship? Do I want marriage? Do I want a boyfriend? Do I want a friends with benefits? Do I want something casual? Do I want nothing? Do I want to just completely be single? And I also want to address the whole thing about decentering men, because it is possible to decenter men and still go on dates. That's actually what I did. I'm probably going to be talking more in detail about this on my Patreon, because I feel like me talking about my personal dating life, that is not like for the public. I should just be talking about that behind a paywall, because I do feel like the dating tips and stuff that I used really worked and helped me to be with my current boyfriend. By the way, if you've made it this far in the video, you should seriously consider joining my Patreon. You are not going to find another Patreon like mine. It is catered specifically to MLS women. It's catered specifically to our issues. And I talk about leveling up and social strategies that we can use and dark femininity and how we can use those things to live the lives that we want, to date who we want, and to remain high value while doing so. But I think it's really important to self-reflect and be sure that you are clear about what it is you want. What are your relationship goals? What are your values and your priorities? Are you looking for a long-term relationship? Do you want someone who is loyal above all else? Because I know for me, I need someone who is hot, wealthy, and loyal. Those are my personal standards. I think it's also important for us as women to be honest about our intentions. So I recently talked about toxic mothers, and I know that for a lot of us MLS women, if we've been around toxic family members or people who are constantly trying to put us down, it can be hard for us to be vulnerable about our feelings and emotions. But I think that when it comes to dating and it comes to love, you have to open up your heart and be clear about your intentions and what you want. But also, the pick me era is over. So we all know that when it comes to dating and relationships, we don't have to bend over backwards and try to put on a certain persona and be who he wants us to be, because I feel like the reason why a lot of women end up getting abused so heavily is because a lot of women spend their lives chasing after a man with money, chasing after these quote unquote high value men, but then nobody truly defines what a high value man is. So it's like people will talk about high value men, but then they will never show who that high value man is. Like, show me who he is. Like, point fingers and name names. Show me a picture of him. What does he look like? What does he do for a living? How does he treat his wife? Who is it? Because in my opinion, Steve Harvey is not high value. In my opinion, a lot of the guys that, even Lori Harvey, as much as I love her, a lot of the guys that she has dated, I don't consider those guys to be high value. Like, I personally don't. So I think that we as women have to define what the term high value means for us, because I really think that every woman has her own unique definition of what a quote unquote high value man is. And then there are some women who think a high value man doesn't even really exist, because if you look at statistics, a lot of men are more likely to leave you when you're on your deathbed. They're more likely to cheat on you when you're pregnant. They're more likely to not have the same level of emotions or feelings as you. And so I would say just definitely be mindful of that. And that's why I think it's important to decenter men, even if you are dating. So, like, when I was dating, when I was single and just going on dates and stuff, I gave myself a time limit. Like, okay, I'm only going to go on this many dates per week. Okay, I'm only going to talk to guys before 8 p.m. Once it comes time for me to work on my YouTube channel, or it comes time for me to go to the gym, I'm not texting any guys. I'm not talking to any guys. I'm not doing anything with the guy, because I don't know if those guys will even be in my life long term. And so I'm not willing to sabotage my own personal goals so that I can get some temporary attention from a guy. Because one thing that I learned about dating that really changed my life is male attention is abundant. The male gaze is very abundant. Like, there's always another guy looking at you. There's always going to be a guy trying to talk to you. There will always be a guy chasing after you. I don't care if people call them quote unquote simps, because you know what? Guys are the ones who, they really want sex so bad, and they really want a woman so bad, because a lot of guys are starving for validation. Men do not receive the same validation in society as women. Think about it. Even when you have children, let's say you birth a little boy and you have a little girl. When it comes to little girls, a lot of us girls, like, we get kisses and like we get hugged on, and people are like, oh, you're so cute, oh my gosh, and they pinch our cheeks and stuff like that. Women are socialized to be more affectionate and to have a lot more affection than a boy. A lot of times when a boy falls down and he hurts himself, people say, oh, well, you're a big boy, or don't cry, or you should just man up. And so a lot of men, they don't receive the same level of validation and emotional comfort that women do. So this is why we see a lot of men who are so incredibly codependent on women for emotional validation, for sexual validation, for self-esteem. They want a woman to be their secretary. They want you to be their sex partner. They want you to live with them. They want you to take care of them when they're sick. They need a nurse. They need a mommy figure. They want you to be a therapist for them. A lot of men's emotional needs have gone unmet for so many decades, to the point where this is why we see a lot of men having red pill rage. This is why we see a lot of men who are enraged when women choose to be child-free and single and whatever. Because a lot of men, they have been waiting their whole lives to finally receive the validation that they've been seeking through their career, through, building up all this money and gaining all this success. A lot of men are doing that so that they can attract beautiful women. They're doing that so they can attract beautiful women. They're doing all those things so they can sleep with beautiful women. They're doing all those things so they can get a beautiful woman to birth their children, so they can pass on their wealth to those children that were birthed by a beautiful woman. So pretty women rule the world. I mean, we really do, if you think about it. Because any heterosexual man is always going to have a weakness for a woman. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that women can't have the same weakness for a man, but I feel like because women have been so hurt and tarnished and abused by things like patriarchy, I think a lot of women are starting to wake up. And patriarchy actually hurts men as well, because it causes men to compete with each other. It causes men to only find validation based on how pretty their partner is, or how many beautiful women they can sleep with, or based on how many women want them sexually. And so patriarchy also hurts guys as well. Also, beware of the extremely religious guys who will attempt to use religion in order to shame you into doing what they want. I've noticed that a lot of guys like to use scripture and Bible verses to tell women that they need to submit, or that they're being a Jezebel. Meanwhile, those same men will go home and jack off to Jezebel. So, Anyway, this Exotical Cuffing season series premiere is a little bit different than what I was expecting it to be, but I feel like a lot of women need to know the truth, and I think that women need to have higher self-esteem, especially us here in the Pretty Girl Club, because a lot of guys like to target us. They want us to be their baby making factories. You would be shocked at how many guys have really tried to pressure me into having their babies. They really want babies from you because they want your genes, they want their children to look like you, or maybe they think you would be a good mother, aka you would be good at muling for him and you would be good at providing and protecting for your own children while he goes out and cheats. And so I just think a lot of women need to be mindful that when you are looking to get cuffed or whatever, definitely don't center your life around it. I know that we're all waiting for our Prince Charmings to come and sweep us off our feet. I get it. You want your Prince Charming, but until then, you have to still have a good head on your shoulders, because also when you have things going for yourself as a woman, that actually makes you more attractive to a man who actually has things going for himself. Anyway, what do you guys think about this video? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.